talked about how some teachers are not competent. You know what? Some parents ain't that competent either. We chronicle that every day, so what do we do about that? We are in, here, the snowy wilderness, as of yesterday afternoon anyway, of Gainesville, Texas. John, hi. Mark Davis, how are you?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
Great. Nice to have you.
Thanks. Well, like you said, the basis is that, of course there's a right to have homeschooling, but I think we need very little societal oversight of the homeschooling parents. If the homeschool parent does a good job or a bad job, that will be determined like anything else by the market. Their kids won't be able to get into college, so they'll have a very high incentive to do the right thing.
But what if they don't care? What if they don't care? And I know I've really got to make up a kind of a wild example, but it happens. So here's what I mean. The parent who, for, let's say, still lingering bad blood over the Civil War, chooses to not really cover, that Lincoln presidency. Or, because he didn't like, or let's say the grizzled, please, I'm not picking on anybody, the vet who really doesn't want to cover Vietnam.
I have an answer for you on
this. Tell me.
Well, you're saying that society has the right to step in on this because this is severely going to affect this child's future and it's going to put a burden on society. If that were the case, why don't we step in when people are not quite keeping up on their children's nutrition? Because obesity is a problem that affects the rest of us. Why don't we step in on their TV watching or make sure that the children have
understand completely, because that happens in the home, because that generally happens in the home, and that is purely a parental responsibility.
Education was purely parental.
Well, except that it's not. Except that it's not. If you've got
right to teach my child than me.
If you've got, I understand that, but here and this is a perfect call. This is perfect. That's exact because I agree with you. You're right. You do have a right to be the prime arbiter of what goes into your child's head. But what if you're a screwball?
Okay.
What if you're just a Class A nut? Is there? I think your kid has a right to have somebody take a look at what's going on and say, wait a minute. Lincoln existed, and there's a parent farther away from the sun than Saturn, and,
when that should happen, though, Mark? When criminal activity is involved.
Get out of here. Criminal activity? You mean, so a kid being homeschooled by that 0.5% of parents who are wacky is just screwed? This isn't about criminal activity.
Regulations on the rest of us for the 0.5%?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. In no way does this make the California solution proper. Not at all. But I am fine with some every once in a while, pardon this bugaboo, standardized test. I'm a huge fan of standardized tests. Always have been. It shows whether your kid knows anything. And find out to make sure that there's a base coat of just normal, basic math, science, history, knowledge going into your kid's head when you're homeschooling.
That's not the state's job. The state's job is to protect children. And
that's exactly what that would do.
Being a little bit negligent in education is no different from being a little bit negligent in physical.
It is enormously different. It is, if your kid is fat, that's not good, but that's not really my business. If we're raising even a portion of a generation of kids that are educationally crippled, they deserve protection from that. Don't they?
Why is it your business if they're educationally any more than it's not my business if a child is overweight?
Because it doesn't affect anybody else. The state of Texas, the state of
the healthcare costs related to.
No, please.
Use that argument.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Health issues will never rise to that level. We will never have food police. We will never have well, at least I wouldn't think. God knows we have cell phone police. So we should always guard against that. What parents are feeding their kids. Obviously, if you're neglecting a kid and he's got scurvy or something, that's one thing. But that'll never be the state's business. Education, the outermost fringe of education is all of our business. It just
I agree
is.
with you for the most part, Mark, but if you set one standard, then who sets the standard? Who sets it? Why not leave everybody free to make their own decisions?
Because the occasional kid...
99.999% of the
I
children
know.
will be well taken care of.
I know you're right. I know you're right. It's just that if one kid gets to be 18 and is just as... I mean, it's not really... It wouldn't be a matter of being dumb. It wouldn't be a matter of being... But it's just been screwed up by a parent who's wacky. It would just kill me not to have done anything about that. There's got to be a way to protect against that very rare instance while generally leaving intact the 99 and 44 100% of parents who are great homeschoolers, leaving them in the maximum possible latitude. This is the perfect call. It's exactly the balance that I want to strike, and you are wonderful. Everybody else weighs in on it next. Ruling out of California says you got to have a teaching credential to homeschool your kids. That's incredibly wrong. However, does that mean no oversight of kids that are homeschooled? And how much is too much? More of your calls next. 1016, Mike Shannon and traffic on WBAP.